The strange cousin. "Mother, have you heard about our summer holidays yet?" said Julian at the breakfast table. "Can we go to the Polsith as usual?" "I'm afraid not," said his mother. "They're quite full up this year." "Cheer up," said Daddy. "We'll find somewhere else just as good for you. What about Quentin's, for example?" Quentin was his brother, the children's uncle. They had only seen him once and had been rather frightened of him. He was a very tall and smiling man, a clever scientist who spent all his time studying. He lived by the sea, but that was about all that the children knew of him. I had to see Quentin's wife in town the other day about a business matter, and I don't think things are going too well for them," said Daddy. Fanny said that she would be quite glad to have one or two people to live with her for a while, to bring a little money in. "Their house is by the sea, you know, just the thing for the children. Fanny is very nice. She will look after them well." "Yes, and she has a child of her own too, hasn't she?" said the children's mother. "Let me see. What's her name? Something funny, yes. Georgina." "How old can she be?" "About 11, I think." "Same age as me," said Dick. The children began to feel rather excited. It would be fun to go to a place they had never been to before and stay with an unknown cousin. "Oh, Daddy, do telephone to Aunt Fanny and ask her if we can go there," cried Dick. They had all finished their breakfast and they got up to wait for Daddy to telephone. He went out into the hall and they heard him putting the call through. Daddy came back in about 10 minutes' time and the children knew at once that he had fixed up everything. He smiled round at them. "Well," he said, "your Aunt Fanny is delighted about it. She says it will be awfully good for Georgina to have company because she's such a lonely little girl, always going off by herself, and she will love looking after you all. Only you'll have to be careful not to disturb you, Uncle Quentin. He's working very hard and he doesn't like it when he's disturbed." "Well, be as quiet as mice in the house," said Dick. "Honestly, we will." When are we going, Daddy?" "Next week, if Mother can manage it," said Daddy. "Well, what about Tuesday?" "That would suit me well," said Mother. And at last Tuesday came. They started for Kirin Bay, where their uncle's family lived. It was a long journey. At 6 o'clock they arrived. "Now, let's look out for Aunt Fanny's house. It's called Kirin Cottage," said Mother. They soon came to it. It stood on the low cliff overlooking the bay and was a very old house indeed. It was really a cottage, but quite a big house, built of old white stone. Roses climbed over the front of it, and the garden was gay with flowers. "Here is Kirin Cottage," said Daddy, and he stopped the car in front of it. "I think it is about 300 years old. Now, where is Quentin?" "Hello, where is Fanny?" The children's aunt came running out of the old wooden door. The children liked to look at her at once. "Welcome to Kirin," she cried. "Hello, all of you. It's lovely to see you." There were kisses all around. And then the children went into the house. They liked it. It felt old and rather mysterious somehow, and the furniture was old and very beautiful. Where is Georgina? Asked Anne, looking round for her unknown cousin. Oh, the naughty girl! I told her to wait in the garden for you, but she's gone off somewhere, said her aunt. I must tell you, children, you may find George a bit difficult, and at first she may not like your being here, but you mustn't take any notice of it. She'll be all right in a short time. Do you call her George? Asked Anne in surprise. I thought her name was Georgina. So it is, said her aunt, but George hates being a girl, and we have to call her George. The children thought that Georgina sounded rather exciting. The Uncle Quentin was a most extraordinary-looking man, very tall, very dark, and very serious. Quentin is working on a very difficult book, said Aunt Fanny, but I've given him a room all to himself on the other side of the house, so I don't expect he will be disturbed. There was no room at Kirin Cottage for Mother and Daddy to stay the night, so after a hurried supper they left. Georgina still hadn't appeared. I'm sorry we haven't seen Georgina, said Mother. Just give her our love and tell her we thought she'll enjoy playing with Dick, Julian, and Anne. The children felt a little bit lonely as they saw the big car disappear around the corner of the road, but Aunt Fanny took them upstairs to show them their bedrooms, and they soon forgot to be sad. The two boys were to sleep together in a room with low ceilings at the top of the house. It had a wonderful view of the bay. The boys were really delighted with it. Anne was to sleep with Georgina in a smaller room, whose windows looked over the moors at the back of the house. But one side window looked over the sea, which pleased Anne very much. I do wish Georgina would come, Anne said to her aunt. I want to see what she's like. Well, she's a funny little girl, said her aunt. She can be very rude, but she's kind at heart, very loyal and absolutely truthful. Once she makes friends with you, she will always be your friend, but she finds it's very difficult indeed to make friends, which is a great pity. Then she looked at the children and said, How tired you are! You must all go to bed straight away and have a good long night. And indeed they were all sleepy with their long drive. I wonder where Georgina is, said Anne when she said good night to the boys and went to her own room. Isn't she strange not waiting to welcome us and not coming in to supper? All the three children were fast asleep before Georgina came up to bed. They didn't hear her open Anne's door. They didn't hear her get undressed and clean her teeth. They didn't hear her get into bed. They were so tired that they heard nothing at all until the sun awoke them in the morning. When Anne awoke, she couldn't at first think where she was. She lay in her little bed and looked up at the ceiling and remembered all of a sudden where she was. I'm at Kirin Bay, she said to herself. Then she looked across at the other bed. In it lay the figure of another child. When the figure stirred a little, Anne spoke. I say, are you Georgina? The child in the opposite bed sat up and looked across at Anne. She had very short curly hair, almost as short as a boy's. Her face was dark brown with the sun, and her very blue eyes looked as bright as forget-me-nots in her face. But her mouth was rather sulky, and she had a frown like her father's. No, she said, I'm not Georgina. Oh, said Anne in surprise. Then who are you? I'm George, said the girl. I shall only answer if you call me George. I hate being a girl. I don't like doing the things that girls do. I like doing the things that boys do. I can climb better than any boy, and swim faster too. I can sail a boat as well as any fisher boy. You must call me George, then I'll speak to you, but I shan't if you don't. Oh, said Anne, thinking that her new cousin was most extraordinary. All right, I don't care what I call you. George is a nice name, I think. Anyway, you look like a boy. Do I really? Said George, the frown leaving her face for a moment. The two girls stared at one another for a moment. Don't you simply hate being a girl? Asked George. No, of course not, said Anne. You see, I do like pretty dresses and I love my dolls. Fancy bothering about pretty dresses, said George in a low voice. And dolls, well, you're a baby, that's all I can say. Anne felt offended. You are not very polite, she said. I didn't want any of you to come anyway. Interfering with my life here, said George, jumping out of bed. I'm quite happy on my own. Now, I've got to share my room with a silly girl who likes dresses and dolls, and see two stupid boy cousins. Anne felt that they had made a very bad beginning. She said no more, but got dressed too. Just as they were ready, the boys knocked on the door. Aren't you ready? In. Is Georgina there? Cousin Georgina, come out and see us. George opened the door and went out. She took no notice of the two stupid, surprised boys at all. She went downstairs. The three children looked at one another. She won't answer if you call her Georgina, explained Anne. She's awfully strange, I think. She said she didn't want us to come because we'll be in her way. She laughed at me and was rather rude. Julian put his arm round Anne. Cheer up, he said. You've got us to help you. Come on down to breakfast. They were all hungry. The smell of bacon and eggs was very good. They ran down the stairs and said good morning to their aunt and uncle. George was there too, buttering a piece of toast. She looked and smiled not very pleasantly at the three children. Don't look like that, George, said her mother. I hope you've made friends already. You must take your cousins to see the bay this morning and show them the best place to bathe. I'm going fishing, said George. Her father looked up at once. You are not, he said. You are going to show a few good manners for a change and take your cousins to the bay. Do you hear me? Yes, said George. It was clear she didn't like the idea. So after breakfast, the four children got ready to go down to the beach. An easy path led down to the bay, and they ran down happily. Even George smiled as she felt the warmth of the sun and saw the dancing waves of the blue sea. You go fishing if you want, said Anne when they were down at the beach. We won't tell tales of you. We've got ourselves a company, and if you don't want to be with us, you needn't. But we'd like you all the same if you'd like to be with us, said Julian. George started at him. I'll see, she said. I don't make friends with people just because they are my cousins. I only make friends with people if I like them. So do we, said Julian. We mayn't like you, of course. Oh, said George, as if that thought hadn't occurred to her. Well, you may not, of course. A lot of people don't like me, now I come to think of it. And was staring out over the blue bay. At the entrance to it lay a serious rocky island with what looked like an old ruined castle on the top of it. Isn't that a funny place? She said. I wonder what it's called. It's called Kirin Island, said George. It's a lovely place to go to. Who does the funny island belong to? Asked Julian. George made a most surprising answer. It belongs to me, she said. at least. It will belong to me someday. It will be my very own island and my very own castle.